Am I allowed to name TikTokers by name, or will you get into beef?
It depends on who. What? YOLO. Hi, good evening. Sorry, let's give a couple minutes to see if folks join. Sorry, I am late starting on YouTube. We were getting microphones charged up, so yeah. So we're streaming live. This is my eldest kid, Ruth, and we are streaming on YouTube and TikTok this evening. And Ruth actually had a topic that she wanted to discuss, but we're also open to other things in the comments. So, yeah. Go ahead, Ruth. Yeah, or you want to give it a minute?
Sure. Is YouTube live working?
I think it is. It's just getting going. Maybe we'll give it, if you want to yap about something for 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll give it a chance to get going. Does that sound okay?
Sure.
Yeah. Sometimes it's only been live for like 30 seconds, so it sometimes takes a little bit. And I'm going to get my knitting out. Well,
oh, I should have got my.
It's okay. You're in charge of the live.
Yeah. Just waiting for the YouTube live. Since it hasn't started yet.
Yeah, it's just a little slow, right? I'm still kind of new learning how YouTube Live works, and it's a little bit slow. Mm-hmm. So while we're waiting, if people have thoughts on political news of the day, or hi Ren, how are you? I am about to make a video right after we get off live. I'm going to make a video about Kristi Noem and Mark Wayne Mullen because I have lots of feelings about Mark Wayne Mullen. But Ruth actually wanted to talk more about AI and in particular Colossal Biosciences and some of the crossover that we're seeing between kind of AI tech bro stuff, the influencer sphere, and what, like an alt-right pipeline? Does that seem accurate?
Yeah, I could probably more coherently put thoughts into like an essay or something, but I just wanted to yap about it because I keep seeing science influencers, STEM influencers, people that are generally well respected, and a lot of their thing is like dispelling pseudoscience, taking money and being sponsored by Colossal Biosciences. And I have some big feelings about that. If you don't know about Colossal Biosciences, they are, I would describe them as the Theranos of genetics. Mm-hmm. They are just a big fucking racket. It doesn't mean that they don't do anything. They do. They're not like Theranos in that they don't have any product at all, but what they are selling to people is a big scam, and it is actually really dangerous for conservation. So Colossal Biosciences is a big tech bro company supported by Elon Musk that is claiming to be doing Deextinction. So that what they're claiming is that they are bringing animals back from extinction that are completely extinct.
Can we take a 2-second break? Can you guys? Yeah. So we mic'd up because I know Ruth has a quiet voice. So if y'all can't hear her, let us know and we'll adjust the mics. I know I'm really loud and she's not. So also real quick, hi in Ames, Iowa. Hi in Alaska. Hi. And people said they're bringing their crafts with them. They've got crafts to work on. I'm working on a sweater. So can I say something really quickly before you go back to Colossal Biosciences? So I did a video last year because Colossal Biosciences is the ones that claim, the corporation that claimed that they unextincted the Direwolf, and it was all over TikTok. And a couple of YouTubers had like really viral videos about the direwolf has been made unextinct. And I was like, that's actually not even remotely what happened. Do you want to talk about that as like context before you get into it, or do you want me to?
Yeah. So the main two things that Colossal Biosciences is known for is woolly mammoths and direwolves. So direwolves was a big thing last year. Basically what they did is they, I believe using CRISPR technology, edited some of the genes in existing wolves to be in more alignment with some of the genes that they found from direwolf DNA that they had. It was not a clone of a direwolf, and in fact, to my understanding, not all of their edits are disclosed. So the big main difference that we see is that these wolves are white, but really that is just an aesthetic choice that they made to make them white.
So they were making them like phenotypically somewhat similar to direwolves, but they weren't doing anything to unextinct direwolves.
Well, so the thing is that direwolves are not necessarily just white wolves. So the reason that they made them white is because of Game of Thrones. It's because the pop culture idea of a direwolf is looks like a wolf but white. But that's not necessarily what a direwolf is. Direwolves, we typically think of them as being like brown, and they have a very different phenotype, like in their skull. But basically, they just made a white.
Someone's agreeing. Jessica's agreeing with you. Yeah, they wanted to make the wolves from Game of Thrones.
So the reason they did that is because one of their big supporters is the author of Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin. He is a really big fan of this, and they've been pitching this idea to him for a really long time. So they even did like a big photo shoot, and this is really just like a promotional thing to get them a lot of money.
Folks say they can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. So they're known for de-extincting direwolves, and they are so dishonest with their marketing about this. They are basically just spreading misinformation. When they had this direwolf story happen, they were on their social media. People were saying, are these actually direwolves genetically? They would be telling people, well, we don't really think of species as being defined by genetics.
Oh, that's right. They did say that.
They say we don't think of species as being defined by genetics. We more so think of it as being defined by phenotype, which a wolf that is now white is not even phenotypically a dire wolf. That's just a white wolf. Those already exist. They looked different physically other than just having different colored fur. And also, they weren't just white wolves. They were brown.
Yeah.
And two, if that is the case, then any case of mimicry in the animal kingdom or
in convergent evolution,
mimicry, any kind, even just species that are distinct but look similar. Think about how many species of small brown birds there are now, according to them, the exact same species.
Can I just really quickly, because people are joining late.
Yeah.
Ruth, thanks for asking. So first of all, people said they can hear you really well. Yes, I'm making the halibut sweater. I made one for Ruth, and now I'm making one for me. But then what are we discussing? So we're discussing Colossal Biosciences and how last year, I did a video on it. You can search it up on my YouTube. They claimed that they had unextincted dire wolves. But now they're making new claims. And Ruth, as a science major who is taking is currently taking a conservation genetics class, really wanted to talk about the proliferation of influencers making sneaky ads, promoting Colossal Biosciences and junk science. And then we were kind of hoping to pivot that into a conversation about AI and junk science slop and anti-intellectualism. Yeah. So feel free and drop your questions. So sorry. Thanks for letting me pause.
Well, I don't know if they've said anything new lately. I've just been noticing that science influencers who have built their branding on dispelling scientific misinformation online and like always using sources, peer-reviewed sources in their videos, have been partnering, taking money from this extremely shady anti-science tech bro company that I have a lot of beef with. So I'm just explaining what their whole deal is. I did want to loop it back to talking about AI, but I also really wanted to talk about the concept of de-extinction and how it relates to fascist regimes. Because
can we do that first before we talk about AI and like anti-intellectualism and junk science? Yeah.
Well, I mean...
Well, can we talk specifically about the fascism pipeline first and then... Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna, how about this? If I tap you on the leg, can it just be like, so we have like a little code? There's a question that I want to get to in the chat. Is that okay? Okay. Thank you. Yeah, okay. Thank you. You can go ahead. The movie version of The Animal gets more funding. Exactly. Throwing AI into it could be horrible. Oh, into the war? Well, we'll get to that. Okay, so go ahead. Say what you're gonna say. Sorry.
Okay.
Because you were telling me you'd done some research about how you'd done some reading about how the Nazis were also obsessed with de-extinction.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things I want to talk about. So,
I'm sorry. Also to say, YouTube Live might ding me for using NAZI. So can you say Yahtzee?
Yeah.
So we have to be careful saying like mustache man or whatever because YouTube Live doesn't like it. Okay.
So I have many problems with this tech bro company. One of them is their definition of de-extinction is the same pseudoscientific concept that the Yahtzees were also obsessed with. So they're saying de-extincting just means making an animal that looks like the extinct animal. And let me look up the name. So the Yahtzees were also obsessed with this idea for bringing back, it's sort of like how redwood trees, there's like a lot of old growth redwood, and that's because eugenicists thought that redwoods were like the Aryan trees, like they're stronger and better than all the other trees, so that's the only reason they were conserved.
That's so embarrassing.
Yahtzees in Germany had the same idea with cows. There was this cow called...
While you're looking it up, I think this relates to the whole Yahtzee concept of blood and soil and this kind of back to the land, thinking about the fertility of the land connected to the fertility of the people and breeding like a pure, strong Aryan population. There's so much of that rhetoric, which like as a permaculture person who's really interested in our connection to the land and to each other, it's horrifying and fascinating to see the way that fascism twists these like good concepts into a really perverted, awful thing that they use to advance eugenics or to justify the things that they're promoting. So in and of itself, right, like conserving breeds, whether conserving species or conserving like heritage livestock breeds, that's a good thing. Like organic agriculture, having a good relationship with nature, those are good things. But the Yahtzees used it for bad. Yeah. So you ready? Sorry.
Yeah, I was trying to find the name because I couldn't remember how to pronounce it. Aurochs, I think is.
Oh, aurochs, yeah.
Aurochs, so an extinct type of cow that was the ancestor of certain types of German domestic cow. The Yahtzees were obsessed with this being like the Aryan cow that they had to bring back and save cows. But they obviously couldn't actually de-extinct it because it was extinct. So they went and bred existing cows that are not extinct to look more like it. So they found ones that were most like it and bred them to look more like it. And then they said that they de-extincted it. That is basically what Colossal Biosciences is doing. Another really famous example, the other thing that they're known for is woolly mammoths. So people have said, like, scientists have said, like, oh, there might still be an ecological opening for woolly mammoths in, like, Siberia because they didn't go extinct all that long ago. So if they were to be brought back, there might still be a place for them in the ecosystem. What Colossal Biosciences has gotten a lot of mileage out of is their plan to bring back the woolly mammoth. They started by making woolly mice. So they genetically edited mice to have longer hair, sort of like we've done, with poodles. They have, wool.
They turn on genes. Fur,
yeah. But instead of selectively breeding it, they, I believe, use CRISPR technology.
I'm sorry to interrupt you really quickly. Someone says, yes, Ruth is the one who's obsessed with black metal. I wanted to point out toward a Native American black metal band.
Is it Black Braid?
Black Braid, yeah.
Yeah, I love them. Yeah. Feel free to give other black metal recommendations.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so you were saying that there is a niche. Their argument is that they should bring back woolly mammoths because they feel like they didn't go extinct all that long ago, and that there is a niche for them in Siberia. No focus on conservation for the species that are endangered right now.
Yeah, I'm getting to so.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So the problem with this one is that they're not doing what they say they're doing. Taking an Asian elephant and making it hairier and plunking it in Siberia is not going to fulfill the same ecological niche. And second of all, they're never going to do that. Let's be real.
Someone just said they edited an Asian elephant. It's not right. They're not true clones. That's exactly right.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, so they're not. Yeah.
Oh, so I just had this idea, right? So Jamel Bowie, you probably don't know. I yap about him a lot. He's a New York Times journalist, and I really love his work. He cloned this phrase cargo cult fascism to talk about the regime, how they go through all of these rituals of being like a real autocratic regime, but they're really, really bad at it. And this sort of reminds me of that too, like this veneer.
They're LARPing.
They are, right. They're doing like live action role play. It's this veneer, but they're not actually doing the meaningful work that they say they're going to do, but it looks a little bit like it. It's a poor facsimile, and therefore it's passable. Like that, it feels like more of that.
I mean, that's kind of like the bread and butter that Silicon Valley lives off of, is promising something you cannot deliver. That's what crypto is. That's what AI is doing right now. And there's just such a huge element of using pop culture to trick the public, pointing at pop culture and being like, look, I'm doing that, when they can see that, or maybe they can't see that you're not doing that. The way that Colossal Biosciences is pointing to Game of Thrones and saying, look, you guys are familiar with direwolves from Game of Thrones when they just use white dogs that are big. That's what we're doing. They're also pointing at Jurassic Park and being like, oh, you remember Jurassic Park? We're doing that. Except they're not, because they're not actually bringing back any animals. They are just genetically editing animals that are not extinct.
Well,
and I would liken it very much to, how many of you guys have seen Dan Olson's video on the metaverse? The Future's a Dead Mall. It's very much like how the product of the metaverse is so non-functional and worthless and not at all what they're delivering, that people who are trying to sell the metaverse to people, they have to just point it Ready Player One and be like, it's that. I'm doing that. Because they don't actually have a working product to sell you.
So to me, it feels like, just wondering why the colorful versus monochrome cardigans. These were both my mom's. So these are from the 80s. And when my mom passed away, I inherited a box of her cardigans, and we like to wear them a lot. So it's just that it's cold, and that's what we decided to wear. It was not planned, not a planned.
Oh, yeah. I actually have a one that looks like that.
Ruth has this exact same cardigan she got at the thrift store. Sorry about my microphone.
No, they were both from my mom.
Oh, that's right. One was one she gave to TT in 1987, and one was I have grandma's. So when you're talking about, we were on a walk yesterday, and we were talking about all of this, not directly, not so much the Colossal Biosciences, but we were talking about kind of anti-intellectualism, AI slop, and we were talking about how so many of the promises of the AI bubble feel very similar to Theranos, which is, I don't know if anybody else is also obsessed with Elizabeth Holmes and the whole Theranos thing. Ruth and I have had this conversation for years.
I read her biography. It was the most entertaining book I've read all year.
That is a whole fascinating rabbit hole. But to me, and you were talking about, right, like big crypto, and we were talking about NFTs. Ruth and I never understood NFTs as anything other than a scam.
I mean, I understand what they are.
Yeah.
They only exist to get people to buy crypto. Crypto is just a big scheme of, how can I find an even bigger idiot than me to buy this crypto from me for real money? Because you can't spend crypto on anything other than like drugs or giant performative purchases. So it's all about finding new chumps to buy it for real money. That's the only way to make money from crypto, is getting in early and then buying out or selling, getting someone else to buy it from you.
Was my mom a knitter? No, she wasn't at all. My grandma Frankie was, but my mom was not a knitter. So it skipped a generation. Yeah. So you were saying about, sorry, is there a comment you want to
it's just someone said, I bet the Democrats like crypto. The alt-right loves crypto.
Also,
I mean, I'm sure some Democrats do too. Libertarians also.
Libertarians love crypto. I think crypto. So when we look at crypto, someone said early on in the chat, when you first started talking about this, right? Like the issue is capitalism, is corporate greed, is profits, right? So any of these things that could be awesome, like alternate monetary systems, or doing that kind of like CRISPR, other genetic research, that these could, or AI even, they could be good pathways that benefit us, that benefit nature, but instead they're not. They're like really twisted because all of these bros just want to do a Theranos, right? They just want to drive up their own personal wealth. Like, how long can we grift off of the American people? Thank you. How long can we grift off of the American people and like then get the hell out of Dodge, right? Like, because that's what Elizabeth Holmes was doing.
I would say they're not even being twisted. They're just not doing that in the first place. Like Elizabeth Holmes, for example, she was never making life-saving blood analysis technology ever to begin with and wasn't twisting it. She just never was doing that. She was always doing grift.
Yeah, so
nobody who went out to make crypto or NFTs was ever setting out to do something that could benefit society. There are ways in which technology can benefit society. There are ways in which these different technologies can benefit society that are related in some way to these grifts, but that's not what these grifts are doing.
So you make a good point, right? Like crypto and NFTs they never were about doing anything. I think there are purposes for which AI could be good. I don't think the people who are doing it just like
AI covers a lot of different things.
Yeah, that's true. That's right. Generative AI, right? Like Trish and I were talking the other day about generative AI. Could be, you can use it like your own tailored search engine, but then that creates the problem of it's harvesting other people's intellectual property off the internet, not compensating them, and then these tech bros are getting compensated. And then it also creates the problem of, sorry, we're jumping around a little bit here, but like AI then also creates the problem of if it's large language is harvesting off of the internet to generate a response for you, the more mis and disinformation and slop on the internet, the more it's harvesting inaccurate things. And you were saying, well, that's why AI will never be fully automated and why it relies on exploited human labor, right?
Yeah.
Will you explain that for them?
Well, yeah, they can't just make generative AI and then put it out into the world and it'll run forever. It will keep feeding itself on things on the internet and like giving answers that don't make sense. So in order to keep it a workable product, they have to hire people, often in other countries, for unlivable wages to manually adjust what they're saying to make sure it keeps being a passable product. It's very similar to what are they called? Waymos, the self-driving AI cars.
I did a whole video on Waymos.
Yeah, so like they're not like, there are times when they can't just be fully self-automated, so they have to hire people in the Philippines who don't even have American driver's licenses to drive them. Or Elon Musk's robots, servant robots. Those are also at times operated by real people, but they don't want you to think about that or know that, because they want you to think that these are replacements for human work entirely.
Well, and that's like where the grift is, right? That's like Theranos and their machines in pharmacies around the country that were just empty machines, and people thought that they were getting real testing, and then they would get a result that was false, and it turned out they had cancer, and it was late being diagnosed because they thought they were using a legitimate do everything machine, but it was just like an empty box.
So the performance of Theranos, when they would do performances that would that they would use to legitimize themselves and like get actual results, they would do the machine that did nothing, and then secretly behind the scenes be going and running actual blood tests. And she would just tell her employees like, oh, it's just called.
That's totally like people actually driving the cars. Yeah. Just a voice says, thank you. Oh, the Theranos reference is a really good one. Yeah, I agree. And lots of parallels with the .com bubble. Totally agree. Totally agree. All of these bubbles are just making the super rich.
Have y'all seen that Andrew Technologies ad on Twitter where they call themselves the Theranos of defense? I keep seeing that. It's so funny. But why are they saying that? Like, do people know that Theranos is like the most expensive scam of the 21st century?
I don't know why they do.
But I just don't really know who they're signaling. Ads on Twitter are so weird. Maybe they're trying to signal to other. What?
Rowena says, I'm a trans woman and teacher who escaped Missouri into a blue state today. Congratulations. I'm finally free after 30 years of harassment. Thank you. I hope that you find a safer community where you are. I saw that Kansas has pulled the driver's licenses of trans folks there. So like in one day made them inactive. I did a video, was it yesterday, trying to highlight some of the real significant attacks that the regime is doing on trans folks in the US, but there's so many more. I need to make more content on it because I feel like that subject goes under the radar pretty frequently, right? We don't hear enough about it. So thank you. I'm glad that you were able to get safe.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, I just want to make sure. Okay. Yeah. One of the things we were talking about with Theranos or with like this Colossal Biosciences in general is the kind of pop science, junk science to alt-right pipeline, but also like the anti-intellectualism, the rise of anti-intellectualism. And I know this has been a hot topic on TikTok for folks, is what do we do about it, right? And it's so hard. Someone in the comments just said, and I'm so sorry I missed your name, and said there's no fucking hope. I think there's a lot of hope. But to me, it feels like everything that's happening is kind of focusing our attention, funneling our attention to where it needs to be, right? Where we're seeing really clearly the source of the problem, which is billionaires and the Epstein class and like capitalism and corporate greed. And that also drives the anti-intellectualism. They don't want us to be critical thinkers. They don't want us to be innovators. They want us to be compliant workers in the assembly line for them, right? And keeping us ignorant has been the goal not only of the Christian right in this country undermining science education, but I think as much as we hear like tech bros talking up STEM and what have you, they don't really want that for all of us. They only want it for the elites. They want them to drive all of these grifts and us to buy into them.
They mean Silicon Valley.
They mean Silicon Valley, yeah.
These tech bro startups.
Yeah.
They mean, yeah.
Yeah.
They mean Elon Musk's 19-year-old lackeys.
Yeah. I think for me, so many people, right, even just a couple of years ago, if you'd asked the American people whether billionaires should exist, a majority of Americans said yes, and a majority of Americans believe there are good billionaires. All of this terribleness that we're going through now, a majority of Americans now thinks we should tax billionaires out of existence. Most Americans don't think that good billionaires are a thing at all. And so I understand that it's terrible to live through this period, but it's very eye-opening for people. And I think it can direct us to the kind of protections and policies and reforms that we really need. I think there was maybe a troll in the comments earlier who was saying something about like Democrats must love big crypto. I'm actually super critical of Democrats who take money from big crypto. Both Adam Schiff and Senator Padilla in California took a bunch of big crypto money for their reelection campaign. And then when both of Donald Trump's sweetheart corrupt crypto bills came through, guess who voted for them? All of the effing Democrats who took big crypto money. And so it's a real problem. Corporate money in politics is a huge, huge problem. So if we want meaningful reform and protections for us in STEM, in Silicon Valley and crypto, what have you, our elected officials have to work for us and not for the agenda of these corporations. So sorry, I had to pontificate. Yeah, Christy Nome did get fired. Sorry, can I respond for a second? She did get fired, and I'm going to make a video right after this about it because Donald Trump is wanting to replace her with Mark Wayne Mullen, who's way worse. He's real bad. But it is an absolute loss for the regime that she's been kicked out. He didn't want to fire her. We made that happen. We made that happen through public pressure. Otherwise, he was going to keep her in place because she would do whatever he wants, right? Yeah. I'm just reading comments.
Yeah.
You can.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, the main thing I wanted to talk about as someone who is in conservation is that it's not for no reason that Elon Musk is supporting Colossal Biosciences. It's not for no reason. They're not just doing this just to make money. It is also now being used as a tool against conservation. So these kind of tech bro, junk science, whatever you want to call them, they are STEM, but they are still anti-science. So Colossal Biosciences, they're not just spreading misinformation, they're not just lying to the public, they are also actively being used against conservation. So they're being used now as a talking point against conservation, to attack the endangered species list.
Because it's just
to attack protected public lands, because they say if species go extinct, we can just de-extinct them, even though.
Can we ever lock out the birds?
No.
I'm a little cooking.
You doing it?
It's
we're doing a live. Okay, sorry, she's gonna go lock up the chickens and ducks. Sorry, kid. Do you want to take your phone? Yeah.
I
need a flashlight. Sorry. Okay, she'll be back. We were yapping and the sun went down, and she's got to lock up the chickens and ducks because we live in the city and we have raccoons. So, Yeah, so I think the point that Ruth was making, right, is like if big tech can feed you this live, we'll just unextinct things, then you don't have to worry about it. It takes the responsibility off of the government. When we're looking at Trump rolling back EPA protections, there's talk of wanting to do away with the endangered species list altogether. All of these terrible, terrible things that they want to do, it's because they want you to not have to worry about the environment. Like we'll just pay Elon Musk and his buddies billions of dollars to resurrect these species, even though, right, we're building concrete warehouses over these wetlands, and we're driving species to the brink of extinction. Yeah, let me read questions for a second. The tech isn't there for none of these things. Is the tech there yet? Yeah, really good point. The tech isn't there for anything that they're promising because they don't actually have an intention of doing legitimate science, right? They want this like they're selling you a bill of goods. And Ruth always says it's very much like the Nigerian prince scam, right? Like crypto is this way, NFTs are this way. It weeds out immediately those of us who are like, this doesn't make, like Theranos, this is too good to be true. There's no way you could have all of these different tests in one little box. That obviously doesn't make sense. Those people immediately get weeded out, and then the rest of the public is pandered to. And it's the same thing with the Nigerian prince scam, right? If you reply to it, then, oh yeah, you're on the hook, right? You're gullible. And I think that's part of the devaluing science education, devaluing critical thinking in public schools, is so that people are more susceptible for falling for those kinds of things, and they're not able to logic it out or think it through critically. And I understand there's also a whole other layer of science education is really under attack because the Christian right, Christo-fascists, don't want science education. They want people to believe in a literal 6-day creation. They want you to believe that species are not mutable. Well, Colossal Biosciences is literally like CRISPRing animals. They're trying to tell you that species are not mutable, right? So that's part of the agenda. And I think it also folds in, the Christo-fascists fold into the feudal technocrat bros, because the technocrat bros want profit above all, and they want to be able to destroy ecosystems, what have you, in the name of profit. They don't want to be constrained in that way. But also the Christo-fascists believe that the second coming of Jesus is about to happen. There's no point in being good stewards of the earth. There's no point in caring for creation. You don't have a responsibility to future generations if your goal is to start a war in Iran because you think it'll bring about the end times and that Jesus will come back and will judge all the nations, right? So it really, even though they have different ideologies, there's still a lot of overlap. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, I'm catching up on comments. Thank you. You know what? I just want to say one of the things I really love, particularly about YouTube Live, is the way that people respond to each other in the comments if I can't get to it, or like people have their own conversation. And I really, really appreciate that. So if I don't get to everything, thank you. Oh, so I made a video earlier today about battleground schools. Thank you, Jessica. There was a teacher in just north of here in Brush Prairie, Washington, who got fired from her job because a student lied and claimed that she said that Charlie Kirk was a Nazi, and the school district fired her very quickly. An investigation revealed that that student lied. He recanted his claim, and the officer in the case said that the teacher had to be rehired. That was over a month ago, and the school district is not giving her job back. They're trying to push her out. It's a very, very red part of rural Washington, just north of Vancouver. And so I suggested people kindly call the school district and be like, hey, so you should have rehired this lady over a month ago with back pay, right? And instead they're trying to push her out. And so, and again, if we're calling these numbers, same thing if you call your elected officials, right? Like the aide on the phone, be kind, right? Catch more flies with honey. The person that you're talking to doesn't have the power to make these decisions. They're not responsible, but they're just the messenger, right? They're just taking the message from you and passing it on. So I did urge people to be kind, but also we should be highlighting this is happening all over the country where people are being discriminated against because they're not upholding the position. They're not performing in a way that is pleasing to the regime. We're going off subject. Birds okay? Mm-hmm. Nobody got eaten by a raccoon? No. Thanks for locking them up. Ruth is in charge of the poultry. We got poultry because she wanted to get poultry. Thank you, Brian. We need to talk about how Congress is pushing these bills like COSA and App Store Accountability Act. Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. Ruth. Yes. So do you want to talk about, Ruth and I have been talking about some of the journalism from Taylor Lorenz. And actually, AOC talked about this earlier today. Can we pivot and talk about that for a minute?
Sure. I have to go in 17 minutes.
17 minutes. Okay. Thank you. Do you want to talk about what how nobody's amplifying what she's been saying about all of these?
Yeah, well, just how many, I believe there is like a card or something that covers all of them called bad internet bills.
Mm-hmm. So people are asking what COSA stands for. COSA,
Kids Online Safety Act.
Kids Online Safety Act.
So,
thank you.
It is, and it's not the only one, but all of these bills and acts to have ID verification framed as children's safety. So obviously it's not actually making the internet safer for children. It is incredibly dangerous to have everyone give their ID and face information to a third-party tech bro company that is doing this verification because they are, and they're doing it for profit. They're being paid to do this, and it's not secure. It's just for surveillance. It is not protecting children. So there are all of these ways that it is being framed as protecting children, and it's not. It's actually incredibly dangerous for everyone online.
Mm-hmm. This is a way, though. I think AOC was saying this. I can't remember everything she said in her testimony today, but this is historically something that the far right does. Use children when it's convenient to them, right? Like the pro-life cause, or it's always in the name of protecting kids, right? We can't let trans folks use the bathroom that aligns with who they are because we have to protect children, right? And it's always a projection because they're always throwing kids under the bus. They're cutting Medicaid. They're cutting SNAP, Pizzagate. They're destroying the Department of Education. They're making life measurably worse for kids across the country. Less safe. There was reporting out earlier today that some members of the military stationed overseas just got notification. I'm going to do a more in-depth dive, but I think Heather Cox Richardson also talked about it. Members of the military stationed overseas are being told they have to access prenatal care locally and that they won't get military coverage until 36 weeks into their pregnancy. This is the pro-life party that cares about children. So the Kids Online Safety Act and any of these like protect the children things are always about infringing on your rights because people will so quickly hand over their rights if they think it's making kids safer. And we saw Joseph Gordon-Levitt, right? Who has been promoting these like far right kids safety acts. I don't know who got him on the hook. He was a big Kamala Harris supporter. So to see him do this huge pivot and now be promoting all these far right wing bills that are not about privacy and safety at all. They're just about stripping away your rights and also grifting for these companies. Yeah.
I mean, the tech bro companies that get your information are grifting. They're making money.
Mm-hmm.
The government gets to have your personal information
Mm-hmm.
and your face ID so they can track you.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same face tracking technology that they are using to hunt down immigrants
Mm-hmm.
that ICE is using. That also Israel is using. It is also the same technology that they're using for tracking missiles.
Mm-hmm.
So not exactly children's safety and extremely dangerous for everyone, not just children.
Yeah.
And some people who support it will be like, oh, well, maybe it's for the greater good. You just don't support internet safety. There are ways to make the internet safer for children that are not giving a third-party tech bro your ID and information. This is just like when one of my college classes had an AI proctor that was the same thing. It was a third-party tech company not affiliated with my university that was just, I was going to have to give them my ID and my computer and my facial information. God knows what they're going to do with it. God knows how secure it is. Not secure at all, I'm sure. But it was so that they could save like $1 per student on proctoring. I ended up just talking to my professor and paying for a in-person proctor myself.
But then
the exact same concept. It's not making anything better for students. It is just a violation of your privacy, a violation of your personal information, and making money for these shady companies.
It's worth reminding people that for whatever issues folks may have had with Kamala Harris, she wanted the most stringent consumer privacy laws in the history of the United States. It was all about consumer data protection. And now we're seeing the like harvesting of our data, the stealing of our data, because these corporations make huge amounts of money on it. Hockey fan and roller derby is similar. I missed where the roller derby conversation got going. Ruth and I both did derby for a long time. Also, online proctor services screw up your computer at like a root level. Yes, there are kids online that say like you need a separate computer because once that software is on your computer, you can't take it off. We need privacy and education. We need an America that prioritizes the American people and like our rights and our safety and what works for us. And we currently have a government that prioritizes the Epstein class, right? Like when Ruth was talking about the COSA bill and Taylor's reporting, I was thinking about how these are all the same politicians who are trying to prevent the Epstein investigation from progressing. And these are the same politicians who yesterday, the House voted down releasing all of the private ethics investigations that the House had conducted on other members of the House, right? They voted down releasing that information to the public when it should be disclosed.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are protecting PDF files, and they're the ones who are, right? Like
Yeah. They're so sneaky about it because most people don't know about all of this. Like you have to think about who is doing this. Are these actually people who are shown to have children's safety at heart? Absolutely not. But also, what is actually happening? People see Kids Online Safety Act. They might not even necessarily know what that entails, and that it's just giving a third-party tech bro company your ID and face, which is not good.
Would you be willing to close the bedroom door really quickly? Okay, shout out to my husband who is not only finishing, I started dinner, he's finishing dinner, he's now going to do all the dishes because he's amazing. Hello, South Tabor neighbors. Hello. Peter Thiel is truly an abomination. Ruth and I have talked about this too, like tech bros are not smarter. Do you want to? You can pop off. I know you got homework.
I only have 10 minutes.
Okay.
But,
they're not smarter. They just have access to generational wealth, and also they have a circle of yes men. Like they don't have better ideas. They're just better at grifting, and they're shameless.
And they're set up to be successful because there is imbalances
when
in
you
the system.
When you went out to, I don't want this door on here. Sorry. When you went out to lock the birds up, I was talking about how you were saying that so much of the tech bro world is like a Nigerian prince scam, and Ruth was saying that like these tech bro billionaires are just far more shameless than your average person expects. Like we were talking about Elizabeth Holmes, like how could she so brazenly lie? And Ruth was like, there's a lot of people like that. I think
people really understand how many people will just boldly lie and they will just change their story every time. And again, with like the Elizabeth Holmes scandal, she was lying constantly, but she was also kind of weeding out people who wouldn't just follow her blindly. Like, and there was a huge amount of chuckleheads that would just, there's still people to this day who are loyal to her and believe that she must secretly have some technology that she never was able to show the world.
It is that kind of culty aspect though, right? Because you're asking people to have faith in something and you get them invested in the like sunk cost, like keep believing a little bit longer, I'm going to produce this magic machine, or like crypto is going to make you rich, or
what's the study on like cults that's like when the cult leader is proven to be a cult leader dies, or when they said they were immortal or they were proven to be a scam, the most invested members only become more invested because they've already invested everything. It's a sunk cost fallacy. And at that point they've already weeded out people who like would have critical thinking.
As an autistic, the routine lying is so bonkers to me. Yeah, same. I'm not autistic. Ruth is, but I also am like really shit at lying, and it would be exhausting to constantly be bullshitting everybody all of the time. Except I think for those people, it's not.
I would say like it's breathing. Not even second nature; it's first nature. They have to do it.
Oh, that's a good way to frame it. I think you're right.
Like because you'll see people who do grifts like this. It's not their first grift. Elizabeth Holmes, before this, she tried another grift that was antibiotic releasing Band-Aids that could like have every antibiotic in the world and then sense what kind of infection you had and release it. Obviously, that's not how it works. But that was her first grift. A little too unreasonable. But she before she even had concepts of this thing that would never come to fruition anyway, she was already telling everyone it was going to change the world, and she focused so hard on her marketing. It's like, and now she's pulling a new grift. Like, she has to do this. She does not.
It's a compulsion for them. Yeah. I think you're right. I think it's ingrained. But for us, we're like, how could you do that? That would be exhausting. And for them, it's just their modus operandi, right? It's baked into who they are. You say
there's an anecdote about
that's where they're getting their energy, like vampires. Yeah, I agree. They feed off of it. I think they enjoy hoodwinking people. Sorry.
Well, sure they do. It's the whole thing. Well, there was an anecdote about in her biography about how she used to make everyone play Monopoly, and then when she wouldn't win, she would flip the board and go have a temper tantrum outside because she had to always be on top.
Should always win. That's like very classic malignant narcissist, right? Like
there's something going on with her.
The inability to handle loss or to handle not being the winner in every situation. Yes, we did talk about Colossal Biosciences. If you want to, on YouTube, this is recorded and will be posted in like an hour after the live is done.
I gotta go in like 5 minutes. So I want to say one more thing about
Pop off, girl.
Colossal Biosciences. Well, I don't know. I don't want to name drop the one. I've seen multiple people, but I don't want to name drop the one person I saw today who's a very popular science influencer who just casually, halfway through a video about genetics and conservation, drops that he was collaborating with Colossal Biosciences, and he was screen recording their website, and like the pictures they had were AI generated. I'm like,
their website's real bad AI slop.
I'm just like, are you actually kidding me?
Yeah.
And his whole thing is dispelling scientific misinformation. I'm like, this is not only irresponsible, this is like atrocious.
You can't see it from here, but like
I don't know if he's like stupid.
Their video is just like bad AI splicing together.
Well, that's not that. I don't even think this is what he was showing.
It's their whole website is. The solution is Deextinction, a functional application of advanced gene editing technology aimed at rebuilding the DNA of lost megafauna and other creatures. Meanwhile,
this is the whole. We don't need conservation. We can just bring them back, except they can't, and they aren't, and they're lying to you.
I also just think like how many.
This is not. This isn't even an illustration of DNA. This isn't even like new. Well, does it show up the username?
No, it's.
Do you know this guy?
No. Zeke Darwin, I'll name him. I don't know who that guy is, but
he has like millions of followers, and like all of my mutuals we share his stuff.
He's making mad money. Why does he need to take money from those guys?
He's not even.
Yeah, cargo cult biology, I agree.
I'm just like, I've seen this guy around for years. He's always arguing with people spreading scientific misinformation. This is so irresponsible, and just like.
Do not get me started about the unregulated market for influencers taking money to promote products or ideas and then not disclosing.
We are in an undisclosed ad epidemic. Mm-hmm. There's so many. I can't even name everything. There's so many. We
don't even have to get like how many influencers are signed to agencies that are running them behind the scenes, and like there is no organic. Like content that's being produced. You expect influencers to be sharing from their expertise and their opinions and not to be paid to say something unless they disclose it at the bottom, right? Mm-hmm. But most people don't. And you get halfway through somebody's video and then you realize this whole thing was a setup for an ad for, Colossal Biosciences. Mr. Beast, somebody said.
The video was about conservation of an animal that is at high risk for extinction because of their genetics. And then you're promoting this abhorrent tech bro company that is fighting against conservation and painting themselves as the solution when they're not.
You know what this
it's a lie.
You know what this reminds me of? Remember we were talking about a couple years ago when Elon Musk was like, I can cure world hunger. If somebody pitches me like a plan for ending world hunger, I'll pay for it. I'll do it.
Because everyone says that, like, you have enough money to cure world hunger. You have enough money to cure world hunger. He's like, okay, tell me how to do it. I'll do it. He there's like, I promise I will do it. His fans kissed his ass so much for that. They were like, he's actually gonna do it. He never did it. Obviously he didn't do it, but he still got all the praise. And then he just has so many outrageous things happen every single week that people just forgot. It's the same thing with Trump. There's a new scandal every. No one of all the like horrible atrocities he's done. No one's gonna be like, oh, remember that time he lied on Twitter? But he does that so often. Anyway.
I'm a mathematician and I've had to migrate to AI training jobs because of the lack of decent academic teaching jobs. Do we want to talk about how they hire academics to train AI? Yes, so many people.
Yes, well, I do have to go.
I know you got to go. So. Yes, and I would like to talk about that more, but I actually want to research it more because there is a lot of pressure in academic spheres for professors to use AI everywhere. And then they're contributing to their own obsolescence, but they're trapped and they don't have any other choice. Wait, you were going to say something. Oh, so the thing about Elon Musk too is like, he postured like he was a good guy who wants to end world hunger. Meanwhile, he illegally ended USAID. He is literally, this is my soapbox I get on every single day. Elon Musk ending USAID has killed millions of people. It will kill 14 million people through starvation, a lack of clean water, and denying them really basic medical care like antibiotics and like their TB meds.
How many
millions of people he's killed.
This is what my biology professor really harped on at the time was how many people will be immediately killed because of tuberculosis. At the time, this was April 2025, it was over 45,000 people, and that was just the beginning. I don't know if the number is now, it's much higher, but how many people will be indirectly killed because of this? Not just because they were people who were going to get antibiotics from USAID that didn't, but because of the huge amount of antibiotic immunity that has now caused.
Resistance.
We're putting like entire humanity.
How much antibiotic resistant bacteria we've created by allowing people to take half a run of their
and
TB
they were
meds,
also they had like cornered in certain parts of the world tuberculosis to these small areas, and now it's just going everywhere.
I mean, that's how it is with RFK Jr. though, and everything, right? I had to go right when I was sick last week. I had to go into Kaiser. Hey, there's measles everywhere, so everybody in Kaiser now has to wear a mask. Like measles is making a huge resurgence all around the country. And I know people are really worried about polio coming back next because of RFK Jr. and MAHA. But the same thing, like, oh, now Elon Musk has helped breed super bacteria and so many people have died. Right, like all of
this Elon Musk tech bro junk science is deeply anti-science and in a very dangerous way.
Yeah. But people believe that it's advancement, right? Like all of this pushing of STEM, Silicon Valley pushing themselves as the future of everything. People now have normalized junk science. And because scientific education is so reduced and the rise of MAHA, right? Like look at the woman who's now, what is it? The Surgeon General? What's she up for? Surgeon General? Who doesn't even have a valid medical license and is like a right-wing MAHA grifter. All of that is really normalized for so many people in this country as being like legitimate medicine, legitimate science. And they don't know how real science works because they're afraid of it. They're afraid of Western medicine. They're afraid of education. They believe if they send their kids to college, their kids are going to become woke libs and
Western medicine. Yeah. As if the West is the only people who contribute to medicine. As if Eastern scientists and doctors are all just.
But it's not even Eastern. It's like a bastardization. It's like New Age, and it's like a harvesting of the like feel good vibes. Yeah, Erin, so the nurse in the comments concerned about polio. Absolutely. We're worried about all of these vaccine preventable diseases making a resurgence.
You
have to go do homework. Can I steal your microphone? Thanks for hanging out with me.
Yeah.
Thanks y'all for letting Ruth hang out. And I was going to talk.
If you see someone promoting Colossal Biosciences, I don't care what they say, tear them to shreds. It's so irresponsible. I'm freaking pissed off. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
You can come pop off anytime, girl. Have fun with your homework. Right. What do you have? Conservation genetics or systematics of birds?
Ornithology.
Yeah. Have fun with that. Do you mind closing the door? Thank you. Okay. I'll stay on for a little bit longer. You guys, I messed up my knitting and I can't do a chart and carry on a conversation. So I'll just work on that later. I need easy knitting that's not a color chart where I messed up and I can't figure out where. It will be a really cool cardigan when I'm done. hopefully next time I'm on live, I will be working on sleeves, which have no pattern and are mindless and easy. Yeah, Ruth is Ruth's trying to work on her, it's almost final. So she's taking conservation genetics and systematics of birds. And I forget what else she's taking this term. I got 4 kids in college. So she's really slammed with homework, but I'm grateful that she could take the time to hop on for a little bit. I'm happy to talk about whatever y'all want. I'm also happy to talk more about AI. I'm not actually that knowledgeable about AI. I know I keep pushing my friend CJ Trowbridge. I feel like they have really good information about AI and they're not anti-AI. I'm a little bit of a Luddite. So somebody who makes my living on social media, I don't actually like AI. I feel like it as a parent of 4 kids, I feel that my children not using any kind of generative AI has made them far better in terms of their writing and their communication skills, and also their ability to push through times when they have mental blocks, right? It's increased their resiliency, I think, in their academics. It's fine. It's finals. It's about to be spring break. So they're getting close to finals. Can we please get a Ruth pops off on her pet conservation takes? Yes. So Ruth is a fish and wildlife major. She already completed her German minor. She really, like, conservation biology is her big wheelhouse. And I appreciate folks letting her come on and share. I think a lot of her frustrations about the fact that her whole career path has been completely obliterated by the Trump administration. This is a good outlet for that. It allows her to kind of vent a little bit. So thank you for allowing that space. Are you aware of Pam Bondi attempting to mess with accountability for DOJ lawyers? I'm not, but I will read up on that. The school I went to had a fisheries program. Yeah, Ruth's school has a really, really good fisheries program. Until Donald Trump got elected, the program included internships with the Fish and Wildlife Department that guaranteed you a job, and also internships with the Army Corps of Engineers that guaranteed you a job afterward. All of those immediately dried up within like 8 weeks of Donald Trump getting elected. That whole thing is just poof, right? There's no jobs in fish and wildlife, even though our fisheries are under attack, right? Which is so disheartening because a majority of, both on the East Coast and the West Coast, a majority of the fisheries industry, I don't say fishermen, there's our gender neutral term, fishers, they voted for Trump overwhelmingly, and he's done so much to damage fish and wildlife and to damage the fisheries industries, including firing NOAA folks, how important NOAA is for fishermen, how important the Coast Guard is. Remember, Kristi Noem tried to steal the Coast Guard helicopter in Newport, and Newport pushed back and was like, you can't fucking have that. They got their helicopter back because they're like, literally fishermen in Lincoln County, Oregon will die if you take away our Coast Guard helicopter. So, yeah. Thanks for letting me read. What do you think about AI slop on social media? Is it accelerating the cognitive decline in kids shown to be caused by watching shorts, etc.? I have mixed opinions on this. I actually have a video reply that I want to do to a teacher. Sorry, I have stuff everywhere. A video reply that I want to do to a teacher who was talking about how children don't have any attention span and wanting to blame it on a number of things. I'm my own anecdotal experience as a parent is to be tempted to blame it on trauma. Like, kids are not really interested in school and their attention spans suck because they lived through the COVID epidemic. The children have known no political history in the United States that has not included Donald Trump at the forefront of it. Like, our kids are just under constant trauma. My 14-year-old knows about all kinds of shit a 14-year-old should never have to know about. And so, I don't know. I think there's so many factors that go into kids' reduced attention span. I do think AI slop on social media is really bad, especially for boomers, especially for older Gen X, right? That's who I see falling prey to AI slop on social media, especially on Facebook. It's real bad. It's real bad. They have a hard time. And the AI is so good now. And I know some people say, like, okay, don't pick on boomers and older Gen X. Let me just say something. As somebody who's turning 47, if you don't have your readers on, it's even more difficult to distinguish between AI and what's real, right? Your vision is going, if you don't bother to put on your reading glasses, yeah, it's easier to fall prey to it. So that's not a cognitive thing. That's just a visual thing. I'm getting a ton of AI videos in my YouTube feed. I get a ton of AI generated ads in my YouTube feed, a ton of them. Kids have no attention for BS and it's all many get. I love that. Yes, absolutely. I think a lot of children's like, I'm not fucking with this, or I'm not, is very much because like, what are we presenting them? What are we giving them? What hope are we giving them? And how much bullshit are we feeding them on a regular basis? I actually think the kids are going to be all right. I know that teachers have a different opinion and are concerned about how kids are doing in school, but that's because, if we look at like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or if you look at some of the other theories, oh gosh, okay, I won't get into it, but some of the other theories of like whether kids are able to focus on their education, they value other things right now. More basic needs are not getting met. The kids I know aren't impressed by AI. My 14-year-old refuses to use it. So for he's doing like an early college program, and there's a lot of like, put this into this AI program and see what happens. And he asks to do alternate assignments for all of those instead. Have you seen Resistance History with Tad Sturmer's take on civil resistance? Tad is my mutual on TikTok, and I have a lot of respect for him. I don't always agree with everything he said. So I'm not sure which take on civil resistance. Sometimes he and I disagree a little bit. So if you have more specific insight, I would be happy to say. I love some of his perspectives, especially in terms of understanding that it's not politicians who are going to save us. We should not be complacent about that. But also this kind of worship and adoration of the Constitution is real weird. That's a document made by men. And that I think there is some utility in holding up the Constitution as a document that we're not honoring, we're not living, we're not following what's in the Constitution right now. But we tend to, in the United States, believe that we're limited by that, and we couldn't have reforms that change it. Like my Senator Jeff Merkley talks about the reforms he wants to make to the Supreme Court. And we tend to think because we've done something this way for our whole lifetime that we can't make changes to our government. We've had Supreme Court reform multiple times in our history. There's no reason that we couldn't have term limits or expand the court, make real significant changes. Yeah. So no, I'm sorry. That wasn't a perfect answer to your question, but yeah. If AI writes an email and another AI summarizes and replies to that email, who the hell is actually, that's dead internet theory, right? It's the way that all of those AI slop posts are full of bot comments, hyping them up. And then who's actually viewing that content? I'm about to get kicked off of TikTok Live. Thanks to everybody who joined me on here. I'm going to get 5 more minutes and I'll get kicked off, but I'll stay on YouTube for a little bit longer. That's that dead internet theory. And I think it's also what Ruth and I were talking about of it becomes really this kind of circular reasoning, and they end up feeding information and it really exacerbates. And so you have to have a human being come in and correct all of the incorrect information in the AI, or it becomes completely unusable very, very quickly, especially with so much like MAGA disinformation on the internet. Yeah, I encourage people to opt out of most social media. Again, as somebody who makes my living on social media, I really encourage people to set strong limits to how much they're consuming. It's not good. I have a problem personally with scrolling Instagram for too long and watching videos on Instagram. And I have to draw a line with when is that bearing witness and when is that just me spending way too much time when I could be doing something else. AI slop starts to degrade the AI model. I completely agree. It says nothing to do with today's topic, but how can we start to push for a fully staffed kitchens back in schools in Washington, Oregon? You know what, though? It is related to that. Thank you. Thank you, Nicholas, for that comment. So my husband used to teach for the Native American high school here in Portland, NAIA, and they had such a good kitchen. I don't know what their food service is like now. But one of their focus, core elements of commitment to their student body was good, nourishing meals. I've never had school food that was as good as NAIA served. And in the United States, we feed kids the cheapest food where like ketchup is a vegetable. It's whoever has the lowest bid on their contract. They're the ones who get the deal to feed our children, right? And this should be nourishing our kids and teaching them healthy eating habits and like respecting their bodies and saying like, you deserve to eat well. We don't do that in this country. Other countries are really good at feeding their kids. So having like nuked microwaved meals of just like absolute minimal quality, our children deserve so much better than that. But capitalism, yeah. The value is not in caring for our children. The value is how can these corporations maximize their profit while also costing the taxpayer as little as possible. That's all we think of our kids. So appreciate that comment. Thank you. We need cheap, scalable hot meals, maybe subsidized. Yeah, there's a lot of not a lot of affordable prepared food. I think we should just value the way that we care for children as full human beings in society, and maybe all of us. I think this is one of the lies of Maha. Oops, sorry. Oh, I just got a text from a friend who's watching me on live. Hello. So this belief that children are not full human beings and don't deserve the kind of rich lived experience that we all have, but also like all of us in the working class, right? The billionaires don't think that we deserve to eat well and live well and have secure housing. And so I think it all is that mindset that compounds as to why we don't feed children well. Yeah, our kids deserve way better. I gave up the mindset that kids are extensions of the parental figures. Yeah, too many in the United States, we believe that children are property of their parents or an extension of their parents' will, not full human beings. Mount Hood just posted ranger jobs for the summer. Oh, that's cool. That's good to know. Okay, sorry. Thanks for giving me a second to reply. You aren't a real person if you're not me. You're not a real person if you're not me. Oh gosh. You know what? I think that's a lot of what is going on with the billionaire class, right? The super rich CEOs. How many of them are malignant narcissists and they could not conceive of other people like existing at all or being true human beings, and how much that feeds into the mindset of the elites that like the working class aren't real people. We're just cogs in their machine. We only exist to enrich them, right? To create widgets for them that they can sell to other people so that they can, rake in tons of money and live high on the hog. What would it take for Maha to break free from MAGA? That's a really good question. I don't know. I do know there are people who are leaving every day. It's really hard. You see people whose like kids get measles and die, and they still are committed to their ideology. And so it's hard for me to know. I've lost a lot of friends down the Maha pipeline, especially during Donald Trump's first term. Yeah, a lot of them, I think we could argue about how much that was orthorexia and how much their desire for clean, pure eating very much became an alt-right pipeline where purity is, the priority, cleanness is the priority. That becomes supremacy is the priority, white supremacy is the priority very, very quickly. Yeah. RFK Jr. did hate Trump back in 2023. We don't have to get on my rant about taking dark money, corporate money, PAC money for political influencers. Some of that dark money funded RFK Jr.'s campaign when he ran for president against Donald Trump. I think all schools should teach agriculture. I think all schools should teach permaculture. I think all schools should teach us where our food is grown and the ways that our food systems are largely unjust and inhumane. I think a lot of people don't really realize how much our agricultural laborers are exploited, and that the people who are actually farming our food are largely undocumented. Something like 40% of America's agriculture is done by undocumented laborers, and that who owns the farms are multi-millionaire wealthy white men, overwhelmingly. And the people who grow the food, not the same people. Also, the way that we prioritize really inhumane feedlot agriculture, because that is that results in a bigger profit margin. We don't really talk about that. Yeah, I would love to teach people permaculture. Is ICE still in Portland? Yes, ICE is still in Portland. Yep, and also Hillsborough and Gresham, Salem. They're still here. Yeah. Hello. Still working on the East Coast. It's late. High sustainable prepping. Yeah, I work in an organic CSA farm. It was really hard work. It is really hard work. It is really hard work. Until you've grown your own food, you don't realize how hard the work is. And I think a lot of people in the US don't really realize where their food comes from. When we started doing our really big garden, the neighbor kids would all come over. My backyard for many years was like free roaming neighborhood children. When my kids were little, from all over the neighborhood would come and pick food in my backyard. And like kids didn't know that potatoes grew underground. Kids didn't know that strawberries can come in like multiple different sizes and shapes. They didn't know that strawberries should be red inside and not white. They didn't know that raspberries can be yellow instead of red. Like all of these things that kids didn't know because they don't have any connection to how their food is grown. Yeah. Thanks for, how do you deal with climate anxiety? Oh my gosh, that's a really big question. If other people have thoughts on how you deal with climate anxiety, this is a really big one for me. Before Trump got elected, I talked about it a lot and I had a lot of hope for Kamala Harris getting elected and all of the kinds of climate protections that she wanted. I'm really worried about it. I think about it on a daily basis. I'm stressed. We didn't really have a winter here in Portland this year. And I know that we can't take like anecdotes. We can't take specific data points or seasons and be like, look, climate change is real, right? That's not how that works. We do know that our summers are getting hotter and drier here. Western red cedars in particular are really negatively impacted. Thank you. Okay, I might have a moderator in my chat. Thank you. I'm worried about it. There's trees in my neighborhood that are dying, old Western red cedars in my neighborhood that are dying, probably because their root systems are not meant to withstand such long, hot, dry summers. And I don't really know how to deal with climate anxiety other than to compartmentalize and to think about more resilient gardening strategies for my own personal garden. I've shifted to growing things in the last several years. For example, I've shifted away from planting more blueberries in really, really sunny spots in my garden and moving them into places that get afternoon shade because they get so sunburnt now. Thinking about growing more June berries, which are really climate resilient. That's something that they're kind of like a good substitute for blueberries. If you like June berries, they taste like a cherry mixed with a blueberry, in my opinion. So if you don't like cherries, you might not like them. But they're much more resilient for hot weather. Thank you. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you. Let me know if you have any questions that I missed. So those are sort of the ways that I deal with climate anxiety, is what is within my control. What actions can I take to make my family and my neighborhood more resilient? At this moment in time, I feel like environmental causes are very much on the back burner. I'm really grateful for like climate justice and the Sierra Club and folks who are still litigating on behalf of the planet, on behalf of vulnerable ecosystems. It's so hard to think about pushing that agenda as long as the fascists are in power. And I'm also really grateful. I know I keep plugging Jeff Merkley. Jeff Merkley, my senator, has a really, really strong platform when it comes to environmental protections and thinking about climate change and resiliency. And so I would love to get us to a place where we have a government where any of his plans could be enacted, but capitalism fucks it up. When your focus is quarterly profits for the next quarter and not what will my children's children be able to grow and eat, it really makes it difficult to plan and to get those kinds of changes. We have a lot of Doug firs dying in Eugene from root fungal infections. Ponderosa at the college dumped literal buckets of sap and has died. Oh gosh, that makes me so sad. I get really sad when trees die. This is why I'm a permaculture person. I get really sad when I have to take out my own trees, but when trees die because of climate change, it's really, really devastating. I know there's people all around Oregon who are working on programs to water and care for red cedars and other trees that are now far more vulnerable. Sources for permaculture learning, please. Yes, I've been thinking about really revamping and really improving my Patreon to add a lot more resources over there. And I had for years and years, and don't judge me, I had an Amazon shop and that was not really about me making money. I think maximum I made $89 one year from it, and then I donate all of that to charity. Amazon, so that shop is still open. Amazon will not let me close it, but I don't operate it, and I'm trying to tell people don't go shop over there. But I had a huge bookstore over there that was mostly about making sure people could treat it like a book list, like go to your library and find all these books. So if you want permaculture book recommendations, I'm immediately down to share any of those. I often ask people, where do you live? Because that really matters. Where do you live? Do you own a home and property? Are you in an apartment? That really shapes the kind of books that I'm going to recommend. I immediately am also going to recommend Luby McNamara and her book, People in Permaculture. She is the one who really drove the social permaculture movement, and that's definitely a key area of interest for me. In the middle of Appalachia, okay. So, I'm going to have to do some thinking on that because I don't know any prominent permaculture people who are there. But I will definitely work on making a list. I would like to have available, but banana, passion fruit, but I'm aware they are invasive. I would also love to bring feijoa to the Pacific Northwest. I grow feijoas. I have 5 of them. They're not invasive here. And it will take you 10 years to get them to flower. People in Seattle and Portland have been growing feijoas for decades in the Pacific Northwest, and they're not invasive. They can be finicky if we have a really cold winter. Your feijoas can get pretty significant dieback. I have mine in my front yard. My neighbors have a really big hedge, and so my feijoas are all right on the windbreak side of that hedge, so that they don't get damaged in the winter winds. They don't like wind, and they don't like really cold temperatures. Yeah. People should engage in movement capture on No King's Day and demand the vote required by 14.3 amendment. Insurgents can't hold office unless 2/3 of the votes to lift prohibition. Did I miss that vote? No, I haven't seen that. So I do think it's really good to think about No King's Day and how we could use movement capture for our benefit instead of other bad actors engaging in movement capture that erodes the movement. I wonder how much longer they'll be able to make maple syrup. I know. It's a concern. We don't know what will happen next. It's really hard to get people in the United States who are just trying to keep their heads above water to think about policies that invest in the future. Yeah. Other book recs. Oh gosh, there's so many. There's if you want like introductions to permaculture, they're really small. Permaculture in a Nutshell is really good. I have a lot of videos that talk very quickly about the different principles and elements of permaculture. Bill Mollison's Permaculture 1 and 2 are always recommended. I'm holding my hands up because they're both like this big. They're really dense. And I don't know that I would recommend them as an intro for most people. Maybe I should write an intro permaculture book in all my spare time. What's your response to people saying it's now too late to fix climate change? No, I completely disagree with that. I completely disagree that it's too late to fix climate change. We know that ecosystems are incredibly resilient, and that when we are contributing to ecological regeneration, that we can undo a huge amount of damage. When we understand that we are part of the ecosystem and that we can have a net positive benefit, when we see ourselves as being integrated with the landscape, I think that we absolutely can mitigate and undo a significant amount of climate change. One example is, I know people always reference the Loess Plateau in China, which had really bad desertification from overgrazing by goats. It was just like no topsoil left, high winds. The temperature was much higher because there's no longer a tree canopy. The soil is baked. The soil ecosystem is really devastated. When the government invested, because Chinese government, so they could do this, they told people you can't have goats anymore. We will pay you not to keep goats, and we will also pay you to plant trees and to build up the organic matter in the soil. They were able to recover huge amounts of the Loess Plateau, reduce runoff into the river, reduce erosion, increase fertility, reduce temperatures. And then you end up with these regenerated ecosystems that then start, right? You get a significant ecosystem, it can start generating its own weather. You now have increased humidity. You have all kinds of huge, huge changes that you can bring about when you see people as a resource for regenerating ecosystems. So I'm not somebody who says like it's ever too late for climate change. There's really, once species are extinct, we can't get them back. There are some significant, there are irreversible things that we can do. We can cause irreversible harm, but I think that people can be used for good. All of the resources that we have right now that are being used for capitalism and like these tech bros getting really rich, right? So they can live in opulence. We could use all of our brain power and our resources to do good, but we don't. This is why I'm very idealistic as a permaculture person. I understand how hard that lift is. I do think that possibility is always there. Yeah. Oh yeah, there's a brilliant Hank Green video that contests the doomer mindset when it comes to coral reefs. It's only too late if we think so. Okay, I'm always critical of Hank Green, so I will go watch that because I also agree people are really freaked out about the acidification of coral reefs, about coral bleaching, not only the pH lowering, but also the temperature rising in the ocean and feeling like it's too late. We know that it's not. I think we just need to come into something with the mindset of, okay, in permaculture, we always have the problem is a solution. We have this problem. So how can we look at all of the elements of the problem and craft the solution from that, with the presumption from the beginning that a solution is possible? We have to get from point A to point B. That's not negotiable. So how can we use any of the elements at play, any of the tools at our disposal, and learn from our failures in order to get from point A to point B? Having a mindset of like, we are solution-minded, solutions are possible, I think really opens up a lot of doors. It's not just like the power of positive thinking or what have you. I think that's a really, really important mindset to have. With practicing permaculture, do you practice a zero waste lifestyle? No, I do not. Not even close. Not even close. I would like to. When my kids were younger and I didn't have a cell phone and we didn't have a TV, I tried very hard to live zero waste. Our family does put out, family of 6 adult-sized people, we put out one of what Portland calls a micro can of trash every 2 weeks. So we don't make very much garbage, and I'm really intentional about that. Unfortunately, I don't have access, right? Like, there are things that we buy that I can't reduce all of the packaging to nothing. And there were times that I tried to do that, bringing my own bags to the grocery store. I don't just mean like canvas shopping bags. I mean like produce bags that I sewed out of like netting fabric, or bringing your jars to the grocery store and you write the weight on the bottom so they can tear that out. And a lot of grocery stores won't do that for you. And the ones that will in Portland are real bougie, and we couldn't afford to shop there very much. So there are constraints of the system that don't make it possible for me to have a zero waste lifestyle. And I'm much less intentional about that than I used to be. A big part of the reason that I'm less intentional is not because of the crazy hours I work for this job, but it was actually caring for my parents when my mom got diagnosed with cancer and my dad was blind and going downhill very quickly. Once you become the caregiver for someone in a system that is not set up to care for the elderly or to care for people who are in a health crisis, it's very, very apparent how quickly your priorities have to shift to like sustaining people's lives. And so for me, we started eating more convenience food, or I started worrying less about packaging. Medical supplies come with a ton of waste, right? When you're caring for an elderly parent who needs a ton of medical support, it's impossible to be zero waste. So that's still a goal that I have. I'm very, very free with the fact that like I can't do that perfectly, right? I can't at all. I bought yarn online and it came in a plastic bag that I can't recycle from in the mail. Yeah. I'm always trying to not let perfect be the enemy of good, but I do try and think about that spectrum of good, better, best. I want to do the best that I can. It's not always accessible to me. So how can I at least do good, right? And if I can possibly do a little bit more and do better, I want to try and do that. Yeah, I was a full-time caregiver for my mother for 20 years. I know exactly what, yeah, exactly. I think, before the election, so I'm cold. I keep thinking this is my hot water bottle. I have a hot water bottle, but it's cold. So I'm cold back here. Before I was a caregiver for my parents, I didn't know how difficult that would be. They call it the sandwich generation, where you're taking care of like children and your parents at the same time. And our society has no bandwidth to support caregivers. And that means that we're not able to access those better choices. The system squeezes us so hard that we can't make the good choices, and we have to continue to support the exploitive choices. And I hate that. Yeah. How often do I check my email? Oh, not very often. People leave me comments. They're like, how do I get in touch with you? Or people send me DMs. I rarely check them. A lot of that has to do with my anxiety. When you get 500 emails a day, I don't even know where to begin to reply to them. I periodically have hired folks to help me clean out my inboxes. I also get a lot of death threats and hate mail. And that creates a situation where my own anxiety, the thing I should do when I get hate mail and death threats is I should read every single email, and then it reduces my anxiety. But I definitely don't like to check my email. It's not a fun experience. So yeah, not often enough. I do not respond to people that often. If I do check emails or I get them forwarded from folks who hire to check my email for me, I read them and I don't often reply because I just don't have the bandwidth. I would spend 8 to 10 hours a day just doing emails. So that's my own honest answer. I realize I'm failing in that capacity as a business owner. You have one vegan that's not a fan of yours. I have lots of vegans that are not fans of mine. When we raised even before I did like political content, when we raised turkeys in our backyard for the table, all my hate email was from vegans who called me carnist trash and a murderer and what have you, because we were raising turkeys who had very, very happy lives. And then they had 20 minutes of a not great end of their life as we took them to the abattoir. But the rest of their life was fantastic. A vegan who's fighting with me on one of my videos. Sorry about that. I can't keep up with blocking everybody. Yeah, vegans don't like me. It's okay. That's okay. I have a lot of friends who are vegans. My sister was a vegan for a really, really long time. We ate almost no meat for a really, really long time. I have a problem with pushing food ideology on other people. And I'm somebody who was really guilty of that in the past. Like, we have to eat organic and you have to focus on sustainable agriculture when I was quite a bit younger, not realizing that that's just not affordable for a lot of people, right? 25 years ago, we didn't really talk that much about food deserts. So I think my position of judging other people who want to try and make people conform to their way of right or clean or good eating, that comes a lot out of like me having been a smug asshole in my early 20s who was like, why can't we all eat grass-fed free range? Like, why is it that you can't eat organic, right? Or like, why can't you just cook more from scratch? I didn't understand how food deserts worked. I didn't understand other people's limited capacity because I was young. And I was like, yes, we should all eat this lovely kale, tahini, lemon salad. I don't know. Again, we're all on a growth trajectory. So, yeah. Can I mail you something then? Thank you for asking. Whew. I need to set up a P.O. box. I know Knitting Cult Lady has a P.O. box so people can send her mail. People ask me all the time if they can mail me things. That's on my to-do list of things this year, is to set up a P.O. box and make it public. So if people want to mail me something, thank you. Most of us were smug assholes in our 20s. Yes. Yeah. You learn, you live and learn. We're always growing. I try not to be super hard on people who have really strong kind of polarized thinking, because I think when you're in your 20s, in your late teens and early 20s, you're coming out of childhood, I think it's very normal to have really, really strong opinions. And it's not necessarily Dunning-Kruger, but you still have that kind of passion of youth, but you don't know what you don't know. And you're accessing things that feel like really good and right and maybe different from how you were raised. It's easy to become really zealous. And I know what I was like when I was 23. Ruth is 1,000 times the person I was at 23. I have gotten a lot of death threats as a trans woman teacher. I'm so sorry. It's so different in other places in the country. Portland is definitely, right, like, I know that trans folks in Portland still face discrimination, but it's exponentially more safe here than in other places in the country. And there's just no reason that we should be making life difficult for people who just want to be their true selves and like peaceably live their lives. Like, right, this is the regime scapegoating trans folks and scapegoating immigrants and focusing all of the hate and anger, like righteous anger that people should have for the billionaires, and being like, let's focus on vulnerable people who've never harmed you a day in your life. Veganism is practically a religion. I think it can be for some people. I think anything can become an alt-right pipeline. Almost anything that focuses on purity and limiting, constraining, can very quickly become an alt-right pipeline. I got criticism for that the end of last year because I made a series of videos about like, did you know that there's like a alt-right pipeline? People were like, do you call everything an alt-right pipeline? Anything that limits you, that makes moral judgments about what's clean and not clean, what's pure, what's not pure, what's superior, not superior, very, very quickly becomes an alt-right pipeline. And also, I think it was, was it Taylor Lorenz who was saying it the other day that like the alt-right is really good at exploiting niche subcultures and turning them into pipelines. And the political left has not been good at that. So it's not even just that they're automatically alt-right pipelines. It's that the alt-right has seen and exploited those pathways and moved people towards supremacy. So yeah, we've not been good at that. We've not been good at it. Okay. I don't know why it let me stay on live. Thanks, folks, for hanging on. It said it was going to kick me off. Appreciate y'all. I think maybe here I will cut it off in 2 minutes because I have 2 more videos to film tonight. And there is a cold baked potato for me in the kitchen because I think my family already ate. And my 14-year-old needs help with his science. This was really great. Thanks for letting me do a live. I'm really pretty solid on the idea of doing a weekly permaculture live where we just talk about gardening and permaculture design specifically. I think that would be good. And I got tons of feedback that I should do that. So I will probably start that next week, and then also think about doing other lives where we talk about whatever people want, right? I was also thinking about whether or not I should do, I really like how Heather Cox Richardson does her politics chats, where she mashes a whole lot of different topics into a video that's 30 or 60 minutes long, and whether doing that on live, because I often feel constrained by 1 or 2 topics in a short video. For people who aren't YouTube creators, the algorithm wants you to make a video over 8 minutes and under 12 minutes. And so that's why a lot of my videos are that length. That's so that I can pay my mortgage. So thinking about making those longer videos, I would love to do more of that. And I can put a lot of time. So that's something. Oh, and House Help Fridays. I used to do a segment back in the day. Thank you, Sustainable Prepping. I used to do a segment every Friday about domestic topics like mending or cooking or like parenting stuff. I used to do that every Friday. So I could do lives on that subject as well. Yes, do like Heather Cox Richardson does. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, like a fireside chat. People can submit questions ahead of time, or just like, Angela, can you do a breakdown of videos, various political subjects, whatever you want for the week that's connected. So I'm thinking about doing that. I want my platform to serve people's needs. Yeah. Okay, thanks guys for letting me chat for an hour and a half. I really appreciate all of y'all. I'm going to eat really quickly. And permaculture tips and shorts. I am working on permaculture tips and shorts. I'm in the middle of filming that right now. And I'm going to be filming more garden content. It was too rainy the other day, but I have garden content. I could keep yapping and responding to everybody's questions. I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody in the questions. I'm going to go eat dinner, and then I'm going to put out a couple more videos. I want to talk about Christy Nome and Mark Wayne Mullen tonight. And then one other video. I'm not sure yet what about. I have like 12 things on my list. So maybe something that's like good news, because there's quite a bit of good news to talk about, even here in Oregon. So yeah, thank you. Thanks, y'all. Okay, I'm going to try and figure out how to disconnect both these lives at once. Y'all take care, and I will be back soon.